Hello and welcome. This is Japan. I had this well, I guess I wanted to do this for a while now, but I finally only did it because my friend Wanderer did a video on his D&D classes, and he ranked them, and I was shocked that I've played so much D&D with Wanderer that we were kind of off on some of the classes and some of the races and some of the everything. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a video, and I will link his also because he did a wonderful job. And yeah, if you ever want any D&D, any just even his voice, Wanderer is the one to go to. But yeah, just a little backstory. I've played um, D&D for a while now, so I think a lot of these classes I've played at some point, even if it's just in a small smidgen. I normally DM, but like I still play a character in the campaign. They're normally not the most helpful person, but they're still there, so I guess it's something. Um, but yeah, I figure we just jump into it. So the very first one on the list is the Artificer. Now, the Artificer actually, I did have a little kobold that yeah, I didn't get to play him often, and a lot of these stories will be kobold or tabaxi or something that are normally like 3 feet tall. So like, or like for a kobold that's normal, for a tabaxi that's very abnormal. But he was a artificer, the alchemy class. Now, the alchemy class actually, that subclass of artificer is very fun to play. It has a lot of like kind of like stuck stuff. Like there's really a lot that if you can work with your DM, you could make the class really fun. And I feel like I kind of had that with the character I was using. Obviously, I was the DM, so I was able to, fix a little bit of that. And then I even played another artificer where I did have like a little one shot, and yeah, it was still pretty fun. I also had played an alchemist one. They have the basically metal hunter one, and the one with the little turrets and stuff. So there's a lot that you could use with this. I think like there's a lot of settings that could use it, and some of the spells are kind of weak. But I would probably put Artificer in B tier. Now, I did give it all good things and then just put it in B tier, but to my feelings on the spells are a little weak, and some of the stuff is, other than like I guess like class features, there's a lot to be desired with it. But yeah, that's it. Barbarian, the only time I ever played a barbarian was I was a barbarian druid, and yeah, they were just a beast of a character. And other than raging and a lot of the subclasses that they actually have a lot of like different small things that you can really flavor your barbarian to fit. Definitely a warrior's background, and like even if you were gonna go with fighter, barbarian sometimes is still a good use to a lot of different stuff. So they're very useful. I would probably put them. I'm gonna have to go also a B tier. I know I keep saying good things and then putting them not super high, but I think barbarians also kind of lack. A, well, I guess in the beginning levels, the ability to really do other stuff than just smashing stuff. Which it's still fine, but I think like a clan feature might work where they could like have some type of maybe like bloodline thing, or I don't know. There's something that a DM could work out to really make it better, and I think that would push it up to A tier. Um, Bard. Okay, so Bard is almost everybody's like favorite class, and I like Bard a lot, but their subclasses are not super crazy to me. Like some of them are like very unique, and like you could use them in certain situations. They're definitely a character that if you're gonna play high charisma and you're a high charisma person, perfect. They're absolutely perfect. But other ways, I think their subclasses are just kind of subpar compared to some of the other classes that are coming up, and it's also a personal bias just with that. But yeah, and a lot of bards, you end up using a lot of spells and other stuff. So when you have to heal and be like a contributing part, you kind of run a little bit dry. So I'm gonna put them in also B tier. It's all looking like that so far. Blood Hunter, this is actually the one I've had no experience with. I DM'd for a Blood Hunter, which was Wanderer, and he ended up not really enjoying it. I do believe there's a lot of aspects on it that if you're really fitting like a Gothic type like campaign, perfect. I would think that they were much better and a much bigger upgrade than Rangers and stuff. So I definitely think they have value, and but I feel like unless you're playing in like a Gothic setting, or if you're playing a werewolf, vampire, or something like dark and broody, it doesn't really have a lot of fits. So I'm gonna put it in D tier. I feel like it's a little bit because I haven't played it, and when I first was gonna play the game, it was the one I went to first. I thought, but I just couldn't get it to stick like in my character's brain of like it working. But we'll see. Automatically here, we know the clerics coming up next. I'm a big fan of clerics. Their subclasses are chef's kiss of like every type of flavor you'd want, and like their ability to at least with like DMs like having like, hey, you need your god's blessing, and it really helps story, and you can really root in your backstory with a lot of good stuff, and it kind of could fit anything. Like if you even like bad gods or like evil gods can still fit in a cleric's, wheelhouse. If just like just even like simple like light, like you could still have it as a dark thing, especially if you have a DM that can help you with the twisted aspects of it. But so clerics to me are S tier. I've played a couple clerics. They're very broken in certain levels. Certain subclasses mixed with other classes also make them really strong. So they're a really good choice. A lot of people end up not really like playing like their cleric afterwards. Like they'll build it and then they'll play and they're like, well, I wanted to do other stuff, but I've never had buyer's remorse on the cleric. But that's just kind of my personal opinion. Next up is Druid. Druid's another one. I feel like it's a really good spellcasting class if you're brand new to the game too, because you can sit there and change your spells, and there's if you want to be an animal, there's like a lot of utility that the RP aspect is just amazing. And my first ever character was a Kobold Druid, and I love him dearly. So for 100% bias, plus just seeing all the druids that I've seen in games and just like builds and that wildfire one. If you could give that wildfire one a nice little fireball, I think I would be fine with definitely making that one of the top ones. But this is definitely S tier for me. There's just no if ands or buts about it. This one would be fighter, right? Yeah, fighter and then monk. Okay, yeah, fighter. Yeah, like they're pretty simple when you think about it. There's you could play it like super easy with like a champion fighter, or like then you could go with like battle maneuvers if you want like a what is it, battle master fighter. There's a lot. And like I feel like fighters also like they're better rangers with like if you're gonna do bow and arrow. If you're gonna do bow and arrow anything, fighter, or monk, even monk works, but definitely don't do ranger. Like you don't want to do that traditional Legolas type thing as a ranger because it's not gonna do you good. Even tracking stuff is still there's other classes that can help, and they just don't have like anything extra to kind of put them aside. But going back to fighter, it's just like any box you want to check as being some type of combat oriented, you can do it. And if you want a little magic, there's a little bit of magic in some of those too. So I would definitely put them in S tier. The only reason why I wouldn't put them in or I A tier, I said the wrong thing. Uh, I wouldn't put them in S tier is the only reason, and it's very small. It's like literally hovering between the two. Is that I feel like with fighter, like it's a go-to with a lot of people, and like the feats help it out. I don't know. Actually, okay, you know what? I convinced myself it's S tier. I don't know. I just sat here and tried to argue against it, and then I was just like, you know what? I don't actually really have an argument here, so I'm good with that. Next up is monk. Okay, so monk is a very unique class to me. Like seeing it played with other people. I used to have a goblin monk, little small dude could deck the living shit out of things. Now, if you really want to be a fighter, like a, something that just like punch people and like brawler type of stuff, and like also like if you want to like specialty weapon, like a samurai, like with a samurai sword or like bow and arrow, there's a lot of flavor there. Plus, like if you want to do like an elemental thing, like maybe even inspired by Avatar, Monk's definitely the way to go. And like they're, having that natural armor also really helps with a lot of people. The only thing I would say is I some of the key points, can get kind of dodgy if like you not having enough, especially at lower level. Like I really think that like maybe there could have been some type of like I don't know, almost like signature move that you could use like once per rest. Just something a little extra for the monk that you could just kind of add a little bit of flavor. And that's the only reason why I'd put it in A tier. It's definitely an S tier on certain subclasses, but as a whole, I think like some of them, they just kind of fall short of being like wow factor, I guess. Next up is Paladin. Paladin, honestly, it's a class that I played in like World of Warcraft and like a lot of other games, and I absolutely love the Paladin. I I just don't care for it that much in Dungeons and Dragons. Like there's a lot of role play aspects. I definitely feel like there needs to be more checks and balances. That's really up to DM of really like putting you down to the core of what is your oath. I think like you have stuff like that where it's like cut and dry, which I've had players where I've just like, what is your oath? What do you want? Okay, this is what you want. Okay, so well you failed, and obviously now the god would be upset and you need to do this to help, and like there's a lot of RP aspects to it, but you really have to like go into just I don't know. It's like you just have to like really, really have a solid backstory if you want to do a paladin. I think to really get the most out of like an RP session. But there's also other ways, and I think some classes are just not fun. I don't know. There's just like a lot of oaths that are just like cool but not great. But it's one of those things that like I guess it's just how you play it, and it fits certain characters. And Smite top tier. Chef's Kiss. That is an amazing spell. When I played a paladin, unfortunately we didn't have a healer, so like I felt like I was very underpowered because I had to heal and not use my smite, like my spell slots for smite. I also like had to use my lay on hands quite a bit, which is a very nice thing for your paladin. But like when you're only using it as healing, it kind of is rough to knock such a heavy hitter out of the thing. So I'm gonna put it in C tier. I just don't really put it on the B tier of like those three are solid as hell, and then Paladin just is not quite there, but I definitely think it's better than Blood Hunter. Next up is Ranger. Ranger. I always thought automatically I would be a ranger. Like when I first played my character, then I went into it and I was like, wow, they just don't do anything better than anything else. Now, rangers definitely have gotten a little bit better. Like Swarmkeeper, I like it. There's still like a little bit of tweaks that like if I was going to be a DM and somebody wanted to be a Swarmkeeper, or if I wanted to play as a Keeper, did I say Queefer? Yeah, I probably did say Queefer. Uh, yeah, either that way too, I guess. Like you'd want a couple extra rules, I guess, would be probably the best part. But yeah, overall, Rangers, any other class can pretty much do you better with like bow and arrows, tracking sometimes even. And they definitely took a step forward with trying to help stuff out, but like no cantrips, and there's just a lot of other stuff. So I'm gonna put them in F tier. I'm just not a big fan. Um, I'd probably put him in an E tier if there was an E, but I do feel like the Blood Hunter is a better class, and I don't feel like they're on the same level. Okay, so rogues. Rogues are kind of like DM's nightmare sometimes because when you get them going and you can get them in like stealth areas and like stealth attacks, they can down opponents pretty fast. And if they get a magic item or something else, or if they're pretty clever with some of their maneuvering, it could be really drastic. Very drastic, like to whatever ideal you're trying to do. But yeah, like Arcane Trickster, there's like quite a small subclasses that give you a lot of ways to flavor it. Swashbuckler, so I like Rogue a lot. Um, it's a little bit simple sometimes where you're just trying to sneak and get the stabby off. But I definitely think it's like a better class than most, so I'd give it an A tier. Um, just by the simplicity, and some of the sunglasses are good, but some of them just don't really do a ton for you. And if you guys want a subclass video, I don't even know if they have one on here, but we can check it out. Okay, next up is Sorcerer. Sorcerer actually is one of those classes that I really like to play because of the meta magic. There's a lot of different like flavoring you can do with it because like you get your signature stuff. I mean, they even have signature spells, um, and kind of the lineage makes it a lot. It's like built-in backstory if you're like a new player. Again, I feel like with a lot of like the magic characters, you definitely have to have an idea of what you're doing. Like spell wise, because you can just pick up a whole bunch of random spells. But definitely think sorcerer is pretty top tier. I'd put it as A tier because I feel like it could be S, but like the problem is I think with mine is that it the whole like lineage thing is also a hindrance to a certain extent on certain things because like your magic is passed down through the lines. So like the ability to find more magic and all that is kind of weird compared to like sorcerers who just learn, or not wizards that just learn and get better over time. But it's just a very small caveat. They could definitely be S tier if we get like another one or two subclasses that really knock it up there. But I do like it. I definitely do. The Divine Soul one also is really high up there. Warlock, I'm gonna have to be again biased on this one. I mean, this is my list, but Warlock, oh, I love Warlocks. Obviously, with spells slots, they definitely make utility, rougher on certain areas, but like they have good relationships for RP, because obviously like your power is kind of borrowed. And I played a Tabaxi named Cupcake that was a Celestial Warlock, and that was amazing character. I had a lot of fun, playing around with him because he definitely had a lot of utility with like having some cleric spells and stuff like that you could do with the Celestial Warlock. And I've just like loved Celestial Warlock so much that I haven't even explored Warlock that often of like what other stuff is there. But everything I've seen when a Warlock is made or played, I love. So I'm definitely putting him in S tier. And then last but not least is Warlock, Wizard. um, I like Wizard. I mean, a lot of people either hate them because they're super squishy or love them because they have like so many spells that they can learn and all that, and like their wizard books. Like we had a couple wizards one time, and they were all sharing books and all that. It was interesting, like that you could learn other spells and other rituals. I definitely think Wizard is a lot of fun. Um, some of their subclasses are hit or miss. I personally I don't think I've ever played a wizard. I kind of prefer the sorcerer over a wizard, but I put them on the same S tier because or A tier. Why do I keep saying S? I don't know why I'm saying that. I think I'm like my brain is like, just put them all on S. But yeah, this is my list. I'm actually not too shocked. A couple of them really could, go up or down, but I'm pretty solid with the S tier. Fighter, I'm still, yeah, I'm keeping fighter. I can't just keep changing my mind on it. And yeah, all the other ones I'm pretty solid on. I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm gonna probably do this one on the races and a couple of other things, maybe some of the books. Thanks again for watching, and definitely check out Wanderer's video because he filmed this and did the thing first. And I don't want to be like taking his ideas, so you gotta go show him support, and then you can give me some support, and then we'll be good. I don't have to feel as bad and hate myself. But until next time, this is Japan. Bye.